Hi guys, I got a puppy, and this puppy that I named Bart has taught me some things. First, he taught me how to be more patient. Still working on that one. Second, he taught me pain. But third, he taught me how to be more financially responsible. I can't just spend $200 of my paycheck on the next Lego Indiana Jones reboot sets and physical copies of national anthems. I have to put aside some of it for his food and toys and treats and stuff. But obviously, he didn't teach me this. He's a dog. He can't even talk. He can bark, and he makes sure to let me know of that, but he can't say words. This led me to find someone who can say words, which put me down the path of the beautiful bald man, Dave Ramsey. I was shown his TV show by my high school teacher to teach me financial responsibility. Surely he can't be a problematic evangelical teaching questionable morals and shaky financial advice, running a business plagued with misogyny, right? Right?
Hi, I'm Dave Ramsey.
Hello. New spot. Well, it's new to you guys. I hang out here like every day though. Figured I'd record here. Got some posters and stuff hung up, and I like the way it looks. I like the way the records look. Do you guys like the ones I have picked out? Can you see which ones they are? That one that has a bit of glare on it. That one's a Demolition Hammer, in case you're wondering. Or even care. Let me know how this looks in the comments, you know? Talk to each other in the comments. Let's build a nice little community, okay? You know, we're starting to get some people hanging out around here. Some regulars, you could say. So, you know, become friends. I don't know, man. So my guess is some of you might not know who Dave Ramsey is, and the reason I only know about him is because I happened to take a finance class in high school and was shown his TV show. If I hadn't taken that class, which was an elective by the way, I don't think I would have ever heard about this guy besides for my friends talking about him when they took the same class. So I'm assuming there's at least a couple of you who don't know anything about the dude. So Dave Ramsey is a CEO and financial advisor, most known for his show, The Ramsey Show, where he offers financial advice. And that's pretty much all you need to know about him. Or is it? Now you see, his TV show is obviously seen by those in debt or looking for financial advice. But like I alluded to earlier, the show is also seen by high schoolers. And the issue with this is he likes to sprinkle in a little traditional values into his advice, as well as enforcing gender norms, and also kind of making up his own gender norms, which makes his advice seem pretty black and white at times and not even applicable at worst. I mean, the biggest thing from his show that I remember, which was a big motivation in my decision to talk about him, was his claim that when it comes to a good deal, men are negotiators and women are hunters. Basically saying that men will try to talk to get a good deal out of something, whereas women will try and search for it. And I can guarantee you that in a good amount of times that is the case, but trying to give one-size-fits-all advice to something as nuanced and complex as finance just seems like a bad idea. Because, I mean, as soon as you give that advice to someone who doesn't fit the description of the demographic you've built for them, it all just kind of falls apart. But before I get too far into the socio-political aspect of this, I'd like to say that while Mr. Ramsey, no, the bald one, there we go, while Mr. Ramsey does give some questionable advice, it's not really the thing I'm going to be talking about / critiquing. I'm not even qualified to do that. All I know when it comes to finance is how to move money from my savings account to my checkings account. Am I right? But seriously, I would be going a bit out of my scope, so instead, I'm going to talk about the things that allegedly go on behind the scenes at Dave's businesses. Because I'm going to be honest, it's a whole lot more interesting than bad finance advice.
Dragons have invaded Dave and Buster's. Dragons have invaded Dave and Buster's.
Dave made sure to start early by taking the real estate exam and beginning to sell properties at the age of 18. While attending college at the University of Tennessee. By the time he was in his mid-20s, he had amassed a couple $1 million worth real estate portfolio, but after Reagan passed the Tax Reform Act of 1986, he had to file for bankruptcy for being incapable of loan obligations. Just something else to add to the list of things that Reagan has ruined. Now, while trying to get back on his feet, Ramsey was obviously getting a little closer to Jesus as well. But while doing so, he decided to offer financial counseling at the church he was going to, and this is where he would obviously gain an interest/love in giving financial advice. This led to him forming the Lambo Group, but he eventually didn't like the name or something because he would start to do business under Ramsey Solutions instead. I mean, it's still called Lambo Group, but he does business under Ramsey Solutions. He'd also make a book that has a cover that makes me think of the thing that plays before an ad for a Disney movie, before the actual movie on your DVD plays, where the guy goes,
"Coming soon to own on video and DVD."
At practically the same time, Dave would begin to venture closer to television. Oh boy. Keyword closer. Let's hope he knows his limits. We don't want another Icarus situation. He'd guest star on a local radio broadcast through WWTN, a commercial radio station in the Nashville area. He'd answer finance-related questions in promotion of his new book, the video and DVD looking one. The show's host would end up dipping over disagreements in regards to the royalties, which meant there was an open spot in the broadcast. Dave must have sensed financial unrest because he and two other financial experts, Hal Wilson and Roy Matlock, would fill the spot up with their 3-hour call-in financial advice radio show titled The Money Game. Just kidding. Hal and Roy would actually leave the show at different points within the first 4 years of it broadcasting. Bummer. Which obviously led to Dave being the only host. And you know what this means? Dave Ramsey Show has finally been born. Thanks, Hal and Roy. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are bored right now. You're thinking, this is boring as hell. This is just some dude becoming successful through giving financial advice that he's gained from personal experience. Make this interesting or I'm clicking off. And you're right. And I'm sorry. I just felt like I'd catch you up on the Dave Ramsey lore. But anyways, shit's about to get pretty interesting, so thanks for sticking around.
John Wayne once said, "I believe in white supremacy until blacks are educated to a point of responsibility." Why did you retweet that?
I did not.
Yeah, we're back here. Gonna cry about it? Pee your pants, maybe? Now, Dave is pretty easy to read. Just based on the advice he gives, you can pretty much guess almost all of his stances on various social issues. For instance, if you were to guess that he staunchly supports the Second Amendment, you'd be right. And my proof for this is that when giving his advice about avoiding credit cards, he makes sure to mention that he only carries 2 debit cards, his driver's license, and a concealed carry permit. Now, I'd recommend, getting the reward system at his local grocery store that can usually save you a lot of money, and then obviously carrying that as well. But believe it or not, there's actually more to talk about in regards to Dave's relationship with firearms, but we'll get to that later. Just know that it's going to continue to get more interesting from here. During COVID, Dave was not a big fan of what was going on. Not the people dying part, but the attempts to prevent people from dying part. He, of course, would disapprove of the mask mandates, describing them as a sign of fear. Not sure what that's supposed to mean. It's a pandemic. Feeling fearful is completely reasonable, especially those who with weak immune systems. He also refused any requests for refunds to his live events because he thought that the people that wanted them were wussies. This guy seems to only feel 2 feelings, spite and greed. But y'all, that ain't it, because of course it isn't. Ramsey was not a big fan of the stimulus checks that were being handed out during COVID, stating, if $600 or $1,400 changes your life, you're pretty much screwed already. You got other issues going on. Because, I guess he just missed the point entirely. People were forced into unemployment with little to no job opportunities opening up due to the fact that there was a fucking global pandemic going on. Needless to say, people were in financial help, and that's all the stimulus checks were. They weren't intended to change your life or get you to the next stage in life. They were just to help you get by when money was incredibly difficult to come by. But y'all, that still ain't it, because I just kept finding more. While researching, I found this article posted by the Religion News Service. It was actually the first thing to come up when I googled Dave Ramsey COVID. The article details a lawsuit between Ramsey Solutions and a former employee who was allegedly fired for breaking the protocols for COVID that Dave Ramsey had set. And in case you were wondering what protocols had been set, there were none. He just forced people to live life completely normally, as if nothing was happening. The article says, Brad Amos, a former video editor at the Franklin, Tennessee-based company, sued Ramsey Solutions in 2021, saying he was fired for not agreeing with Ramsey's faith-based views about how to respond to the pandemic. During the pandemic, Dave Ramsey downplayed the risk of COVID-19, referred to those who wear masks as wussies, barred employees from working at home, and said his company would be guided by faith, not fear. Amos's attorney alleged that at the Lampo Group, which does business as Ramsey Solutions, wearing a mask or social distancing was seen as against the will of God, and employees were required to agree with Ramsey's beliefs about the pandemic. Attorneys for Amos also claimed that his faith included Amos's belief in the so-called golden rule, doing unto others as you would have them do unto you, required him to mask, social distance, and comply with other CDC recommendations during the pandemic. His insistence on doing so, Amos alleged, led to his firing. Guys, I'm not going to try to act like I know everything about this case, or, really that much about, the legal system or law at all. But from all the research I've done on Dave, this really doesn't sound outlandish at all. I'd honestly say it lines up with the research I've done. But to be honest, the only thing that really makes this case complicated is the fact that it's based around the claim that Ramsey Solutions was being discriminatory towards religion. Hence why the case would continue to go in various directions, like how in December a US district court had dismissed both the discrimination and fraud claims before they went to trial, saying Amos had failed to show he was discriminated against. In the lower court ruling, US District Court Judge Eli Richardson wrote that it is not enough that a plaintiff's sincerely held religious beliefs do not align with the religious beliefs that underlie the employment policy the plaintiff was terminated for non-complying with. Instead, the plaintiff needs to have alleged a religious belief that conflicts with an employment requirement, Richardson wrote. So it would initially be dismissed. They would say that there wasn't enough to claim religious discrimination, and I honestly do see both sides. But guys, let's just take a step back and look at what Ramsey was doing besides potential religious discrimination. He was forcing people to not wear masks and interact with each other as if everything was going on normally in the world, ignoring the fact that some of the employees might have been immunocompromised or were in close contact with someone who was. And if you dared to try and do what you may have at the time personally felt was the right thing to do, you risked your entire livelihood in the meantime. To me, it just seems like Ramsey was failing in his attempt to guide his company by faith instead of fear, and so he had to use fear to actually achieve it, making it both faithful and fearful, I guess. But guys, the court case actually doesn't end there, because on Thursday, August 8th, the 6th Circuit ruled that the district court had erred in dismissing Amos's discrimination claim. The court ruled that the federal law protects employees from discrimination based on religious nonconformity, also known as reverse discrimination, or requiring an employee to follow a religious belief or practice. So yeah, it turns out the appeals court would rule against Dave. Bummer. Maybe he should add "don't do stuff that gets you sued" to his financial advice.
You're relieved you don't have to go to work because you thought you were going to get eaten? What the fuck is this world?
So what I just described obviously sounds like a pretty shitty work environment. Like, even if you were to agree with Dave's stances on the COVID procedures, the idea of Dave's way or the highway, even in dire situations, sounds pretty miserable. But with that situation, there is the obvious silver lining of only having to deal with it during the pandemic, but the same cannot be said for how he treats women, because when you're a woman, for most it's a permanent deal. And let me just say this: he's not exactly that nice to women. In yet another lawsuit levied against Dave and his little company, Caitlin O'Connor, a former employee of Dave's, alleges that O'Connor was fired for getting pregnant from extramarital sex. And this is obviously a messy situation. I'm not going to defend Dave and his business tactics, but I'm also not going to defend someone who allegedly cheated on their husband, because, well, obviously cheating is a horrible thing to do. Why would your boss get involved ever unless it was like with a coworker or something? Also, just to note, I've seen multiple sources say that she wasn't even married. I've also seen some saying the opposite, but yeah, what the hell is going on? You're probably going to be able to guess the reason they'll give as to why she was fired, you know, because adultery is one of the big no-nos in the big G's eyes. It all falls apart on Dave's end when you find out that there was a male employee who had an affair and they knew and they kept him around still. Now, he would eventually leave, but after they would get backlash for their obvious double standards. What's this? Another lawsuit has hit Ramsey Solutions HQ? Oh my god! That's right, this guy just cannot seem to stop pissing off all of his employees. Julianne Stamps would sue Ramsey Solutions, alleging that they would pressure her to resign after she would come out as a lesbian. It would also allege that they would in general suppress LGBT sentiments by doing things like banning pastors who were allies from speaking at any of their events. Color me shocked. This lawsuit would end in a settlement of nearly $77,000. So we can pretty safely assume that this is not that alleged. Well, those are all the lawsuits that Dave's been dealing with, I think, but I'm actually a little surprised that there haven't been more, because remember how I mentioned him loving guns and carrying a concealed carry permit, and how I'd bring all this up later? Well, now is later. Gossip is bad. It's very high school, you know, but it's also obviously something that should be left out of the workplace, right? Well, Dave thinks so, at least, because in the midst of yet another lawsuit, this one was back in 2014, and Dave was the one suing, not the other way around, but like still, this dude just is constantly in the court system. It's wild. An anonymous online user who claimed to be a former employee of Dave's would allege that Dave Ramsey would pull out a loaded handgun during a staff meeting to teach them a lesson about gossip. What the fuck? You can't do that. I mean, you technically can, like, you have free will and stuff, but like that doesn't make it okay. Are you happy I saved this one for last? Gonna say it again. What the fuck? And because of the fact that this was brought up on an online discussion that was relating to the ongoing lawsuit, and B, had gained a bunch of attention online, and C, Ramsey's business practices were the focal point of the lawsuit, this allegation was brought up in court. The attorney representing Kevin Paffrath, the man being sued by Ramsey, would ask a longtime employee of Ramsey's whether it was true, to which, under oath, they confirmed. So yeah, Dave Ramsey pulled out a loaded handgun in a staff meeting to teach a lesson about gossip. Just let it sink in. Has it sunk in? By the way, Ramsey was suing a YouTuber for making videos criticizing his business practices. Let's hope history doesn't repeat. Final, by the way, what was the point he was trying to teach? Like gossip about Ramsey Solutions and you get put in front of the firing squad? What was he trying to teach? I don't understand. Well, guys, that's it. Those are the alleged misdeeds of Mr. Ramsey. Mr. Bald Ramsey. What do I expect the outcome of this video to be? Honestly, nothing. I'm not going to be able to stop Dave's content from being shown in schools. So may as well make a video where I point and laugh at him instead. Like, I think teachers are a bit too busy to watch something like this, and you know, people on the school boards, especially the people on mine, don't really care enough to actually make an actual change in our schools. I don't know. Just figured I'd laugh rather than whine. Sorry for the inconsistent uploads. I got a puppy, and I recently started a part-time job, and I Just got my gosh darn wisdom teeth out. What? So yeah, I've been a little busy. Hoping to get some sort of schedule figured out though. So and I got a bunch of video ideas out the wazoo. So don't give up on me, please. Please. Anyways, that's it. Click subscribe, baby. Just do it. Just click that button. Click it right now. I'll see you guys in an indeterminate amount of time. Bye.